During World War II, the skies became a decisive battlefield. In that context, legendary figures emerged known as aces of aviation, pilots who achieved an impressive number of aerial victories. They were men who combined skill, courage, and, in many cases, a touch of luck. From the British Douglas Bader to the Soviet Ivan Kozhedub, each nation had its air heroes. But among them all, there was one pilot who stood out for his unique style, his humanity, and his ability to shoot down enemies as if it were an art. Hans-Joachim Marseille was no ordinary pilot. He was known as the Star of Africa, a title he earned thanks to his incredible skill in shooting down enemy planes over the skies of North Africa. At just 22 years old, he amassed 158 victories. But his story is not just one of military triumphs. Marseille was irreverent, charismatic, and completely different from the stereotypes of the Third Reich. Today, I will tell you how a young Berliner became an aviation legend, challenging not only his enemies, but also the rules of the Nazi regime itself. A story of audacity, genius, and, ultimately, tragedy. What made Hans-Joachim Marseille so unique? Stay until the end to find out. The road to fame. Hans-Joachim Marseille was born in Berlin in 1919, the son of a Prussian army officer. From an early age, he showed an independent and rebellious character, which often put him at odds with authority figures. At the age of 20, he joined the Luftwaffe, but his carefree personality soon got him into trouble with his superiors. Marseille was known for his disobedience and bohemian lifestyle. He loved jazz music, surrounded himself with women, and did not hide his disdain for the rigid military hierarchy. During his training, his instructors recognized his incredible flying talent, but also complained about his lack of discipline. This contrast made him a controversial figure from the outset. Marseille was assigned to the Western Front during the Battle of Britain in 1940, one of the toughest campaigns for the Luftwaffe. He achieved his first victories, but also suffered several defeats. On one occasion, he had to abandon his plane and walk back to base after a forced landing. This fueled criticism from his superiors, who considered him a talented but immature pilot. Marseille frequently ignored orders and was known for his nightlife. His relationship with jazz music, banned by the Nazi regime, was a symbol of his rejection of ideological restrictions. His attitude problems led to his transfer to North Africa in 1941. Although this decision seemed like a punishment, it turned out to be the perfect setting for him to develop his full potential. The legend of the Star of Africa. In North Africa, Marseille found an environment where he could shine. The clear skies, long distances, and combat conditions favored pilots with exceptional skills like his. Under the command of General Eduard Neumann, he began to refine his style and demonstrate what he was truly capable of. Marseille developed an approach completely different from other German pilots. Instead of relying on his squadron, he preferred to operate solo, trusting his agility and marksmanship. He was often able to face multiple enemies simultaneously, thanks to his ability to make quick decisions under pressure. He used rapid maneuvers and precise shots, often downing enemy planes with a single burst. This made him one of the deadliest pilots of the war. On September 1st, 1942, in a single day, Marseille shot down 17 enemy planes. It was an astonishing record that earned him the respect of even his adversaries. But what made him even more unique was his attitude toward his enemies. But beyond his technical skills, what truly distinguished him was his humanity in combat. Unlike other pilots, Marseille showed uncommon respect for his enemies, helping to locate downed Allied pilots so they could be rescued by their own troops. The Nazi regime tried to use Marseille as a symbol of Aryan superiority. However, his carefree attitude and rejection of the racial ideals of the Third Reich made him an uncomfortable figure for propaganda. Despite the pressures and being one of the Luftwaffe's most prominent aces, he stayed away from ideologies and avoided involvement in political events. He never sympathized with the regime's ideas, making him an atypical character within the Third Reich. His skill and charisma earned him the nickname the Star of Africa, but they also attracted the attention of Nazi propaganda, which tried to use him as a symbol of Aryan superiority. However, those who knew him closely knew that Marseille was a man who lived on his own terms, indifferent to political orders. Despite his success, Hans-Joachim Marseille was not invincible. On September 30th, 1942, while returning from a combat mission, his Messerschmitt Bf 109 suffered an engine failure. Marseille attempted to make a forced landing, but smoke in the cockpit blinded him, forcing him to bail out of the plane. His parachute failed to deploy properly, and Marseille fell to the desert from a great height. He died upon impact, a great loss for both the Luftwaffe and his comrades. His death shocked both his peers and his enemies. Even the Allies recognized his skill and unique character. Marseille was only 22 years old when he died, but his legacy was assured. With 158 confirmed victories, he became one of the greatest aces in military history. Hans-Joachim Marseille was a man full of contradictions. His talent and charisma made him a legend, but his disdain for authority and his humanity toward his enemies set him apart from the typical mold of Luftwaffe heroes. Despite being a prominent figure in the Luftwaffe, many of his colleagues admitted that he did not share the ideologies of the Third Reich. His rejection of authority made him a complex figure, a military hero who did not fully fit into the system he served. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Marseille did not embrace the ideology of the regime that celebrated him. His rejection of propaganda and his relaxed attitude toward war make him a unique figure in German military history. His combat style continues to be studied in military academies as an example of efficiency and skill. Even his enemies recognized his talent, something that rarely happened in such a brutal war. The story of Marseille reminds us that even in times of war, some individuals transcend ideologies to leave a unique mark. His short but intense life remains an example of how humanity can coexist with skill in the darkest moments of history. Hans-Joachim Marseille lived in a time marked by war, and his story reflects the contradictions of a man who excelled in combat but never fully fit into the world he served. His skill in the air, respect for his enemies, and free spirit made him a unique figure, distinct from the stereotypes of his time. His story invites us to reflect on how, even in the worst circumstances, some choose their own path. What do you think of Hans-Joachim Marseille? Leave me your comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. See you in the next video.